All right, so we've looked at parts of an angle and identifying and labeling angles. Today it's all about measurement. So we're going to spend some time taking a look at this object in front of me. Now, this is a circle, and hopefully you should know that the degree measurement of a circle is a 360. So if you turn the whole way around, you've made a 360-degree turn. Now, if I took half of it, this is what we call a protractor in geometry, and it's a half circle. So as far as degrees, 180 degrees. Again, a full circle is 360, half of a circle is 180 degrees. Just to kind of point out some key parts of your protractor, we do kind of have this white space or clear space at the bottom here. That's just kind of for you to put your fingers on, to label it up, or to line it up, but there's really no other purpose for that. All of your, when you go to start to use your protractor, this spot right here is going to be where your vertex is going to be located. So again, I kind of call it the middle of my sunshine. So if this is my sunshine with the rays, okay, we're going to line up the vertex right where it crosses in the middle here. And then one of your angle sides is going to either be lined up to the right, or I'm sorry, to the left, or it's going to be lined up out here to the right. So let's first take a look at just some general reading protractors, and you can kind of see how they're lined up. All right, so taking a look at number one here. So again, the blue is my angle. Notice how my vertex is identified by that red point there, and it is exactly lined up in the middle here, kind of again in the middle of my sun. Then once that is true, we have to make sure, now again, these ones are already properly set up, but it's good for you to see some examples of how it should be, because it's easy, tricky. That's kind of my rule of thumb for this. Like, it seems really straightforward, but when you start messing with a protractor and a paper, super easy to get twisted up. So the other part, so once your vertex is in the middle of the sun, notice how my one side of the angle is perfectly lined up with, again, not the bottom of the protractor, but this little line right out from my sun. That's how we want to kind of correctly measure it up. Now, from here, if you notice, there are two sets of numbers. Why? Well, here's the reasoning. It depends on which way your angle is opening up. If you take a look at this example, my angle is opening up to the right. So therefore, I need a different set of numbers than if I'm opening up to the left. So let's take a look at it. So again, here's my vertex. To start, I'm going to follow my way out on the side that's lined up on the bottom there, right? So I'm going to follow the ray out to the right. Then from there, if I'm asking you to measure, again, I'm looking for you to measure the angle, like the space in between, right? Like from here up to here. So, and I kind of actually highlighted it correctly there, but ask yourself, would I start counting at 0 or 180? 180 means it's a half circle, right? We would start counting at 0. So this time I would use the interior track of my protractor. So 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, and you're going to stop when you meet up with that other line here, which is 60. So for this first one, your answer would be 60 degrees. Notice it's not 120. That would be using the wrong number. All right, so let's take a look at another example here. So number 2, same kind of idea, just to kind of point out some key parts. We've got our vertex right where those two angles come together, lined up right in the middle of my sun. And then from there, I want to follow my ray out. Now notice how it is nicely flush here at the bottom with my line right underneath the sun, not at the bottom of my protractor, up a little bit. Remember, that's dead space down there at the bottom for you to kind of hold on to it. So once you do that, you kind of follow that arrow out. And again, where would you start counting? The 0 or the 180? Well, again, if you're going to count, you're going to start at 0. So we're in the inner track again. Anytime you're opening up to the right, the inner track is going to be where you start. Now I kind of followed that inner track over, mimicking where you'd be looking on the protractor as you move all along. And once I get to that blue line, notice how it's between 120 and 130. So again, each one of these tick marks are increments of 1, but right directly in between is 125. All right, let's take a look at two more examples. So again, I'm going to kind of enlarge it. I think it's a little easier to see those numbers. All right, take a look at number 5. So again, take note that my vertex is right directly down here in the middle of my sun, and I do have my arrow, one side of my angle, nicely working out there along the bottom of my protractor. Now again, I'm going to follow which way my arrow is going, and now I'm counting from the left-hand side. This angle, if you just kind of quickly browse at it, it's opening to the left. So again, I'm just going to follow the arrow out, and this tells me, hey, I'm going to use this side to start my counting. Same kind of question. Do you start at 0 or do you start at 180? 0. This time, our 0 is the outside track, and that's okay because we're opening up from the left. So again, moving from 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, counting the whole way up till you get to the other arrow or the other side of your angle. So this would be a degree measurement of 100. All right, one last one for practice here. Okay, number 6. So number 6, again, we have a flat measurement here on the bottom and our vertex. And I just kind of make that dot there, not that you have to do that on your worksheet, but it just kind of, I think when we're talking about it, it's important to, like, even once you have your protractor lined up, then you take a minute and you look at those key parts again. My vertex is lined up. One side of my angle is along flush on the bottom here. So from here, I'm going to follow my arrow out, which is to the left. So I'm going to be looking at the numbers on the left to measure. Again, we start at 0 when we count. So I'm going to be using the outer track. So 0, 10, this is slightly past it. So again, each one of these is a tick mark. So this is 20, here's 21, here's 22. So this exact measurement is 22. And guys, I get that it's a little hard sometimes to be super precise, but you should be able to get between 1 to 3 degrees accuracy. So again, if you're a little bit off, I'll accept it. If you are completely off, or if you're telling me this is 160, that's absolutely not correct either. So just try to be as precise as you can when you're lining up your protractors and telling me what your measurements are. All right, so taking a look in your packet on page 7, there are some measuring and drawing. I kind of went off of the note sheet a little bit because I found that we needed maybe a little bit more help with reading the protractor. So again, these 3, we're going to primarily focus on the first 2. We'll get to the third one. I'll show you a little bit about it. But we're just going to kind of look at these first 2 examples. So you, again, we looked at how you read them. Now it's time to kind of practice how you would actually measure them. So you have a protractor. Guarantee yours is probably easier than working with this online one. But again, if you notice, I kind of tried to highlight some important key features here. So the vertex is green and my bottom line is red. So again, my vertex goes in the middle of the sun. And then my line is flush with not this dead space at the bottom, but the line, like, kind of think of it as your horizon. That's where your horizontal line goes. So again, my green dot is right in that X spot below my sunshine, and then my red line is directly flush with this bottom horizon, not the bottom of the protractor. From there, I kind of follow that red line out because that's where I'm looking to measure. So that being said, actually, let's bring this down a little bit. You have to ask yourself, what track of numbers am I going to use, the outside or the inside? This one, you would be using the inside because, again, we're starting from 0. So 0, 10, 20. So this would be a measurement of 20 degrees. All right, taking a look at number 2. So again, I'm looking at my protractor. My picture is set up there for me. I need to put my green right in the bottom of the sun. Make sure that your ray or the red, again, it's shown red on my screen. It's not red on your paper, but that bottom line is on the horizon down here. So then I'm moving out towards my arrow. Ask yourself, what number do I start with, 180 or 0? Answer 0. So we're going to use the outside track this time, and you're going to keep going, 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 going until you get over to your line. Now you might be thinking, wait a minute, my line's way down here, I can't see it. So here's kind of like a quick tip too. What you can do, let me actually kind of backtrack here for a minute, is that you can use a protractor as a straight edge too. So meaning that you can extend lines. Oh, again, we don't want to just like freehand draw. So you can use that protractor as a straight edge to draw and extend your line. So you could then extend your line so that when you're ready to look at it, it's not necessarily, oh, I thought maybe I could get it black there. But that way too, like again, you're not kind of guessing that it comes out. So you can use that again as a straight edge, line it up, extend your line, and then go back to your measuring. All right, so let's line it back up again to measure my angle. Again, I swear to you, your in paper copy protractor is probably easy, so I appreciate you muddling with me working it. All right, so that green dot is my vertex, middle of the sun, ray out or along the horizon, and then I'm looking at what numbers, my outside numbers to count. Now you can kind of clearly see, like, and I already started and backtracked here, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. You keep going until you find, until you see, till you stop until you come your line. Now again, super easy since I extend that line. So this second measurement here is 130. Okay, last but not least, so this one has presented problems for a lot of people because they think, great, what do? I don't have a straight line there at the bottom to measure it. Well, you absolutely can shift or turn your paper. I'm gonna clear that out here for just a second. So you can shift your paper or shift your protractor. A lot of times people, for whatever reason, have a harder time moving their protractor around, and then you gotta kind of look with a cockeyed, tilted head to read it. So here's another option, guys. Instead of tilting your protractor, you can also just tilt your paper. So what you can do, here's your paper. Let's see if I can make this work on here. As again, I'm looking for one of my angles to be on the bottom, like a horizontal horizon. So I could move it like this. Now do you see how I have the bottom ray? That's like a horizon, like we were just measuring all the other ones. So you can turn your paper and then just keep your protractor the way that you're used to reading it. So again, I put my vertex right below the sun, my ray out to the side here, right along the horizon, not that dead space, not the bottom, but along the horizon. And then when I follow my arrow out, I ask myself, what number set am I going to start with? It's going to be the 0. So 0, 20, 40, and so forth. Now here's another one where it is exactly in between, kind of 70 and 80. So if I was going to make a guess, I'd say about 70, maybe 76. And again, if you're within 1 or 2, 3 degrees, that's completely okay, as long as you're not using the glaringly other answer. So if you're telling me this is 105, we have a problem. Or if you're telling me it's 97, something that, again, is not within the range that's acceptable, then it's kind of an issue. All right, so for your assignment, you actually, oh, sorry, one more thing. There is a website that I would like for you to visit and do some more practice with this. If you copy this and let me see if I can bring it up real quick. Okay, this is what it looks like. And you can practice measuring angles. Again, it shows you all sorts of different types of angles. So you are free to kind of move your protractor around, line it up. Again, you've got the red horizon in this one, so it's easy to kind of see where you're lining it up. And you can also, you can't mess up with the vertex because it is literally stuck on there. All you're doing is shifting it around. So this might be a nice practice activity where you're moving the protractor instead of your paper. You could try that. And once you have your angle identified, you kind of go out, ask yourself which number line. This would be a 10. You can type in your answer and you see if you're correct. So again, this just gives you a little bit more practice of reading protractors, setting up the protractors for success. So you can go onto that website, give yourself some practice problems. Once you feel comfortable, you will know if you're right or not. It'll tell you. Then there are 10 practice problems on page 8 that I would like you to measure and submit via picture. If you need any help, feel free to reach out. Good luck.